Hey, Chamber members, Alan Waters here, your Director of Marketing and Communications at the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce and your Words of Wisdom podcast. Today, I'm joined by
Terri Welch with Paint and Fun Ceramics.
Well, welcome, Terri. I think this is like number 4 for you, number 5 for Paint and Fun overall.
Yes, Heather came in and did a podcast one time, which was great.
It was great talking with her, and it's good to get those different pieces. Something that's kind of become a reoccurring thing for this year so far has been, instead of me asking, what does success mean to you? Because you've answered that. What does failure mean to you?
Oh, wow. Failure, actually, I look at it as an opportunity. I didn't always, because we just talked about this in leadership yesterday. I am a Enneagram 3. I hate failure. I don't want to be seen as a failure. But as I've gotten older and as I've failed a lot over my lifetime, I've realized that that's the only time I've really grown. Is when things haven't gone quite my way and I've had to figure out a new way to do it or learn something new in order to change it. So I think if more people could look at it that way, if I could have looked at it that way in my much younger self, things would have been very, very different.
Yeah, I think there's so much, especially when you're younger, and I'm thinking about myself just coming out of college, where I had all the confidence in the world, probably unfoundedly so, and I had my first thing go wrong. It felt like the world was crumbling around me. But then looking back and reflecting and seeing all the things that I've learned, the fact that I know there was mistakes that I made that I've never repeated since, it was just that next block. So with your industry as a small business owner, how do you think you go about approaching failure in a way that you make it constructive? How do you not let it overwhelm you?
That's a tough one. Mostly I try to analyze it, but I've always been an analytical thinker. And, this art thing is new for me in the last 12, 13 years. So everything that I did in my previous life before all this art was analyzing data and trying to figure things out. And so that's kind of the way I approach it. I decide, okay, what happened? Why did it happen? What could I have done to make it better? And try to figure out how I can prevent it from happening again.
Yeah, because I feel like, to me, a mistake happens, failure happens, but if you keep repeating and doing the same thing, then that's where I'm like, okay, that really is failure because you're not changing anything.
Right. If you don't learn from it, I always one of the things I tell my granddaughter is, the first time it's a mistake. The second time it might be an accident. But the third time you do the same thing, it's on purpose.
It's a choice.
And so, yeah, you're making that choice to do that. And so I try to live by that myself because, I'm trying to teach a young person how to handle failure, how to handle setbacks and mistakes. And so I feel like I have to set that example.
Yeah, because I agree with you. That second time, it could be you're trying to correct it and you just haven't figured out the right way to correct it yet. You're still finding, but then when you start getting to 3 and the 4, it's not, those are active choices you're making. It is you're choosing to fail, or you're not.
Absolutely.
You're not, what's the right word? You're not accepting the reality of what certain things are, because sometimes it's in our control, sometimes it's not. But if you keep going, oh, well, this is somebody else's fault, you're just not getting that point.
Yeah.
So in art and I think about with painting and some of that stuff, what is some of that approach? Because I know I'll give an example. Leo, I'm so sorry for calling them out like this. He did a paint night, him and his wife, for Valentine's Day. And they showed us the pictures of all of them afterwards. And his picture of Emily is not the prettiest thing that I've ever seen, but they talked about some of it. He was like, yeah, I started trying to do blush and then I realized that it wasn't working. So I tried to fix it. And then when I fixed it, it just smudged everywhere. So I decided all right, I'm just going to smudge the whole thing and go into it. How do you keep that functioning in art where I don't think necessarily anything in art is a true mistake? Sometimes it's just the happy accident.
That's
Bob
right.
Ross. But how do you keep that flowing for people?
I just keep talking to them a lot and keep encouraging them. I just taught a class last night at Bellevue, and everybody was excited when the class first started, and then you go through this period in the class where it's everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, my painting looks so bad," and I'm like, "We're not to the end yet. You know, let's keep putting on layers
Trust
and
the process.
Trust the process." And I just have to be very encouraging and upbeat, and then, you know, if folks want me to, I'll go over and I'll help them correct what they see as a mistake. Sometimes it's just they weren't holding their paintbrush the right way. And me showing them how to do that makes all the difference. So,
do you have any things that you think are more forgiving for things like that than others? You know, is it more of the painting, more of the clay?
well, definitely the acrylic paint is way more forgiving than even the watercolor. You know, watercolor is much harder to fix. Acrylic is so easy. I mean, you can, you know, you could actually just take a black paint and paint over the whole thing and start over if you wanted to.
Right.
Clay is a little less forgiving. You've got to be a little more in tune with what it's doing. You've got to make sure you're working quickly so that it doesn't dry out while you're working with it. You don't want it to crack. You know, there's a lot of different variables in that.
And for those like me that have no idea really what the difference is in the different paints and stuff, could you kind of talk through, you know, what is a watercolor, what is acrylic, what are oils and all of those pieces?
Okay. So acrylic paint is just the basic plastic-based paint that you find at Michael's or anywhere, you know, and you paint on canvas with it typically. It can be used on ceramics, but it's not food safe. It's not, it doesn't make your piece shiny. It eventually chips off because it's not a permanent paint. Watercolor is just pigments that mix with water, and you can use that water to create different shades of each color. You know, more layers, more water is less pigment, less water is more pigment. So that's how you create your different color values in your painting. And then with glaze, oh my gosh, there's so many different types of glaze. And the chemical composition of those is different across brands and across types. We have our standard, what we call low fire glazes, which fire to about 1830 degrees. And those are kind of like fine china. So that's our earthenware that we carry at the studio. And it's food safe and it's usable, functional. You just treat it like fine china. No dishwasher, no microwave, that kind of thing. We also have stoneware glazes and stoneware products in our studio. Stoneware is a more durable type of clay that gets fired to bisque, and then we put the stoneware glaze on it, and it gets fired to about 2,400 degrees. It's a whole lot higher. There's, you know, a big difference
big
there.
chunk, yeah.
And so what that does actually is it causes those clay molecules to compress against each other, and that's what makes it impervious to water and makes it food safe and makes it functional.
Right. You said to bisque, and my brain went to soup. What is to bisque?
Okay. So clay comes in different forms. So you can have slip, which is like really muddy clay. It's watered down clay. And then you have you're just like slabs of clay. It's moist and it's pliable and it's workable. And so all ceramics start as one of those two types of clay. And then they either go into a mold or you form it into the shape that you want. And it dries out. That's what we call greenware. Greenware is before the clay gets fired. Once it's fired the first time, which is for all clay, is typically an 04 firing, which is about 1950 degrees. And that's what we call soft fire. That's the first fire that changes from greenware to bisque. And then we glaze the bisque and then fire it again, and then it becomes your usable piece. So it's a process.
That's fair. I'm going to have soup on the mind the
I
rest
got
of
you.
as we go. So when we talked last, we were talking about some of your busy times, slow times, and I know we're coming out of January, which is, I think, for a lot of people, really slow. How has February been with us, with all of the weather? How does that impact you and your storefront and what y'all do?
Well, it has definitely impacted us. I mean, when you have to close or open late because of the weather, it always takes a toll. But it kind of got made up for on the weekends. People got a little cabin fever, and thankfully, they came out and they painted with us, and they made stained glass with us, and they created clay projects with us, and we even had a couple of glass blowing classes in there. And our guests have been super, super understanding. We had to reschedule a sold out glass blowing class, and everyone was very open to the reschedule date. And, we gave them a couple of alternatives, obviously, because, sometimes you just have to reschedule.
Yeah. And you talked, I don't know if the last time you were on, you had the stained glass yet. I know the glass blowing wasn't there. How has that kind of come about? How is it going? Because I know you had the faux stained glass, I think, the last time we talked, but now you've got the real stained glass.
Now we do have the real stained glass, and we try to make it super simple. The glass is already pre-cut into the shape, so you know what you're going to make before you come there. Most of it we have pre-foiled. So foiling with stained glass, if you're not familiar, you take copper tape, basically, and you wrap the glass in that copper tape, and that's what helps the solder stick to it with, a couple other things going on.
Right.
But so we started doing that, and some of our classes are still about 4.5 hours long. It's not an easy process.
Right. Yeah.
So be prepared if you come to take one of those. If it's a large project, it's going to take 4.5, maybe 5 hours.
So you're not ready to get to the point of, hey, I'm putting the windows in the churches yet, right?
No, we're not putting windows in churches. We are just learning the basics.
Right. And then the glass blowing, how did that kind of come about, and how is that working?
Wow, it's amazing. And it is so much fun. And it gives people an opportunity to try out glass blowing. And they quickly realize it's not as easy as these people on TV make it look. We don't have the big open fire and all of the, long tubes and the things that you see on TV with, cutting glass and twisting. It's a simple glass tube that has a little bulb on the end of it, and we heat it up, and you get it to a certain temperature, and then you have about 4 seconds to blow it. So it's,
very quick. Yeah.
It's very, very fast. And you can't, when you have it in the flame, you can't take it out of the flame, take a breath, and then blow, because then it's already cooled off too much. So it's literally, you have to be twisting that in the flame, take your breath, be ready, and go and blow as soon as you pull it off the flame.
And what kind of things can you really go and do and make with that?
So with that, it's very simple. Yeah, it's either an ornament or an aqua globe. Aqua globes are those long tubes that you put in your plants, and it waters your plant for you.
That's cool. And was that the one that was rescheduled? Was that your Valentine's that you were doing, or were you still able to have that?
No, we did the Valentine's one, and that turned out, that was super, super fun. Couples came in, they had a great time. We gave them chocolate hearts, wish them a happy Valentine's Day. We appreciate when families come in and they spend their special days with us.
Yeah.
It creates those wonderful memories, and that's what I'm all about.
Well, and it's something unique too, because granted, there were a lot of things going on Valentine's. A lot of our members were doing stuff, but that's something that you just don't usually walk out and go, oh, yeah, I'm going to go glass blowing today.
I know.
So what, now this is coming out, kind of mid-March. What things like that do you think are on the horizon that people should be on the lookout for that they can come do?
Well, we're going to offer all of our same things that we're doing now throughout the spring and the summer. But the big thing right now is parents are planning for their kids for summer camps. And we have some amazing summer camps this year. We have one called Glam Ranch Camp. And it's, all about the cowboy and cowgirl and having a really good time. And just, so for those folks that have kids that love country, that's kind of our theme for the week. And we're going to be creating some very useful and functional items. Our camp is so much different than a lot of art camps. You go to, I remember as a kid going to an art camp and it was cut and paste and it was construction paper and it was, you came home
Glitter
with things that never lasted, but we help these kids create things that they can actually use. And they're so much more excited about that when they can come back in and pick up a mug that they painted and they designed, and then they can go home and drink their hot chocolate or their morning milk out of it. It's much more exciting for them.
And then the parents can do the beer steins, and they've got
there
something.
You go.
Well, all right.
Or the margarita glasses.
That's true. Yeah, we just had National Margarita Day not that long ago. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, I want to talk more about leadership in River Valley and kind of hear what your approach is and what your thoughts are on leadership in general as our 2024 Business of the Year. Explore your creativity with paint your own pottery, wheels, clay, and more at Paint and Fun Ceramics, where you're the master designer. Your creative vision becomes reality with the mediums they provide, whether you're a painter, a sculptor, or something else entirely. Take advantage of their online bookings where you can sign up, show up, and get right to work creating your masterpiece, whether it be a team-building exercise, fun with the family, or a unique date night. Paint and Fun Ceramics has you covered. With over 1,000 different pottery pieces, more than 200 glaze colors to bring your masterpieces to life, they have options that are even food safe, or if you're in a rush, have them make and take painting options as well. For more information, go to paintandfunceramics.com. That's paintandfunceramics.com. Back to the episode. All right, we're back. Before we fully dive back in, I want to give a shout out to Grand Home Furnishings. Thank you for providing the furniture that is in here. Makes this much more cozy than it was before.
Definitely.
So Leadership in River Valley, this is your first year as a board member here at the Chamber. It is your first time as the board liaison for this. Why was that your kind of area of interest as you came into things?
Well, as I've progressed in my career and as I've gotten older, I look back when I was first getting started and there wasn't anyone that I saw or that I knew to reach out to for mentorship. And so it's really important to me to give back and to help new leaders and to give them some of the things that I've learned over the years, some of the failures that I've been through and some of the things so that they know that they're not alone. Because well, I guess a lot of it has to do with the time I grew up in. You know, I grew up in a time where you just did it. You put your nose to the grindstone and that was it. You didn't ask for help. That was a sign of weakness, especially for a woman. And I was in an industry that was mostly male. So I didn't have a whole lot of people to look up to. And so, you know, it's very, very important for me to be available and be accessible if another woman says, hey, you know, I admire what you've done, or I want to pick your brain, you know, or they just need somebody to talk to or bounce ideas off of, or just say, hey, have you been through this before? And so I thought that being part of this leadership program, that the cohorts that go through can see me as a mentor, just like I did with Marianne and with Whitney. And, you know, when Sharon was here, obviously a fantastic resource and mentor. And so that's kind of where I was going with that.
And then I know the program is shifting and changing some this year. how much of that process has already taken place versus how much of it is great. We're making some shifts, and then we're going to see how that goes, and we're going to keep shifting along the way.
Oh, absolutely. This program is an amazing program no matter what. Mm-hmm. I mean, I went through it in 22. I was so impressed with it that I sent Heather through it in 23. And it's always an evolution. You're always looking to improve things, especially with leadership. How can we best help our community? And that's what this leadership program is all about, is getting people plugged in, getting them to understand what's going on in our community so that they want to be involved. Mm-hmm. And with the new component that we're adding, the professional leadership development component, I think that's going to just take this really to the next level. And then with our community project, we just introduced that yesterday. So I'm excited to see all the proposals that come in for what kind of projects this 2025 cohort wants to do.
I'm really excited to see that, because I really like to see where people's passions come in and where those passions can excite other people and expand. And it's so cool, I think, that we're going to get to see at the end of this class this year something in the community that the leadership class can walk around and go, we did that.
Yes.
And
I think that's going to have so much more of an impact than giving a proposal to someone and have them either use it or not, and not knowing if they do or if they don't. It's a lot of work to put into something, and you want to see some fruits from your labor. And I get that from previous leadership cohorts.
Yeah. And I think on the other side too, with the nonprofits, with the Legacy Project, kind of how it's been, there's that part of, this is good information. It's not necessarily always going to be the most relevant information, because no matter what we do, those class members can't be plugged in the way they need to understand all of the workings, or what that organization has done in the past, or what is in their plans to come up in the future. So
correct.
I think it's cool to see that shift and that change in what is covered, because I know, I think about yesterday was the opening retreat, but next up is history and culture.
History and culture.
And so how those days kind of come about, what is the strategy, I guess, in how you do those? Is it partially, hey, if we structure it with these classes in this order, it's a little of exciting with a little bit of, hey, I'm saying this as someone who's never been to the class. So is infrastructure day the day where you're like, okay, infrastructure is not always the most exciting thing, but it's important.
It is. And we do try to make it exciting. Just like with History and Culture Day, we want people to understand how Montgomery County started and where it was, and what are the things that have contributed to the way Montgomery County has grown and the way it has flourished, and where job opportunities come in, and how all of that history has affected that. So we enlist volunteer speakers who come in and will give a history. We try to do things that are fun, like going through the records rooms at the courthouse and things like that, so that it's not a program where people are just sitting in their seat all day.
Right.
Now, yesterday kind of was, but that was opening session, and that was all about getting to know yourself and getting to know the rest of your cohort.
Right.
So that session kind of lends itself to doing that. But the future sessions, we've got all kinds of cool things planned. Tours of different locations, and lots of fun activities.
But with that, then there is the strategy of, hey, we want to do history and culture first, because then you've got those aspects of knowing where we've come from.
That basis.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then as the year progresses, what is the structure where you start getting more into this community project of, hey, you've got to do work on your own. There's the assignment of, you need to read this much. Where does it start kind of going fully from, hey, where's a class and we're doing this, to now I need you to go do things outside of?
Well, that's always part of it. And we're very upfront about that with the cohort. They know what's expected of them, just like with attending business after hours. This year we did scale back on that. It was a requirement to attend every business after hours, but we realize these are busy people and they have careers and families and other things going on. So we scaled that back where throughout the year they attend at least 3. It gives them an opportunity to network with the rest of their cohort and to get to know them on a deeper level, because this program is not just about learning about the community and growing as a leader, but it's also making connections. And you never know when one of those connections might help you down the road.
100%. I overheard someone last night at Business After Hours. They were talking about that, and they said, now that it's not mandatory, they were like, I kind of want to go to all of them.
I know. It's like when you tell your kids you can't do this, then they want to do
There's
it.
that, yeah. The connections thing, 100%. I feel like so much of our life, yes, you have to know what you know, because if you end up in a position and you don't know it, it's going to become very apparent. But it's so much about who you know and who you know at the right time. I can look back at my career and say, if it wasn't for that random happenstance, I know I wouldn't be sitting here at the chamber as I am. So I love that. How is the approach with differing levels of people in their lives and their careers? Because I think about the fact that last year Marissa went through it as a staff member. I know this year I was going to be going through it, but then baby makes it a little difficult.
Yeah, that does.
So I know Steve is going through it, and I just think about the dynamics of our president and CEO going through this course and being taught in part, by Marissa as a dean. I think about last year, we had people in the course who were in their 60s and nearing the end of their career versus there was someone in their 20s in the very start.
Just because people are in their 60s doesn't mean they're nearing the end of their career. I'm not in my 60s yet, but by the way. But,
I'm not saying anything. Yeah. And hey, sometimes I'm ending the end of this career and heading into the next one.
Heading into the next one. And so I think that that's what makes this program so great, is that there is that diversity. And you have people that are just starting out and just learning to become leaders, and people that have been leaders, but they're learning more about themselves, more how to tweak their leadership style to meet the needs of those upcoming leaders, and to meet them where they are. That's one of the things that I got out of the program, is that, as one of the senior leaders in the program, getting to know those younger members and how they view things and how they view leadership, and how can we work together to make the whole program successful. And I think that that's a jewel in this program, is that you are going to have people from all different phases in their careers.
And I think it's great to be able to go into that and break down sometimes maybe the skepticism, because I think about myself and the Enneagrams and all of those things. I talked with Cassidy actually when I recorded her episode not long ago, and it was, when I started at the chamber, I treated all of those things like horoscopes, where I was like, oh, okay, yeah, you're a 3, whatever that number means. So is there any tip, trick you have to let your guard down as a skeptic so that you're getting the most out of the course? Is there anything that y'all do to try to break through that?
Well, I think you just have to have an open mind. And you don't have to believe all of it, because, it's like anything. There can be pluses and minuses to it, and you can take those nuggets and use them to your advantage. So actually, when I saw my Enneagram and I was like, wow, this is so true. And oh my gosh, how did they know this? And it's more about personality types. And it's kind of like with horoscopes. It some of it fits and some of it doesn't. And you wear what fits and you use it to your benefit, to grow and to learn about yourself and learn about how you can communicate better with others. And I think that that's one of the key things. Like with the DISC assessment, it was so spot on for me. It was scary.
I've not even heard of the DISC assessment, so it's a new one.
It tells you if you're a dominant or see, I'm a D, so I didn't look at the others real close
Right,
yet.
yeah.
Because, but it tells you a little bit about how you approach things. I mean, there was even a whole section that said how to communicate with Terri. I gave that to my team because I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Don't tell me what to do. Give me options. And it said that on that paper, and I've been that way my whole life. And I've never liked to be ordered around,
Yep.
which is probably why I'm an entrepreneur, because I couldn't work for other people for very long.
I might be that one as well. Hearing that out. So a lot of what I'm hearing in that kind of comes back to full circle what we talked at the top of. It's analysis. It's looking at the things in front of you and being able to break down and say, great, here's where it's helpful. Here's where I can do this. Here's where sometimes it's not that. Maybe it's not a rainy day and I'm going to meet a new lover. That's just not
There you go.
always going to be the case. Well, all right. So I know things are currently closed. Our class is underway. It is back in October when we're going to have applications open up for next year's course. What are some things that people who are considering leadership or who have heard leadership right now for the first time, what are some things they should kind of think about, prep themselves, prep their employers so that they might be able to participate next year?
Obviously, the growth opportunity is just amazing. But for me, getting to know the community, the inner workings, what makes things work in our community, what it takes to put all that together, there are so many things that I didn't know until I went through the leadership program. And learning all about that has helped me better understand how I can contribute and how I can make a difference in the community. And I think that that's important. Whether you're new in the business world or whether you are seasoned in the business world, this program can help you. If nothing else, the personal development, the professional development is invaluable. And then the connections that you will make, they can only help your employer,
Right.
or yourself if you are self-employed.
And so it is something, though. It's one Thursday a month for class.
Yes.
It is outside reading with the book that they go through and some assignments along that.
Yeah,
And
but the thing about that, people see outside reading and they go, oh, I don't have time to read. It's 16 pages a month,
Right.
basically. It's not a whole lot. And this book, the one that we're using now, The Power of Moments, I have read it 3 times. It's that powerful. And it's made that big of a difference, not just for me personally, but for me professionally. I even use it on a daily basis with my team.
And then there's also there's the component of the community project that has to happen outside.
Yes.
Is it small groups going to be similar to how it was structured with Legacy Project? Or
So that's still an evolution going on, but they're going to work as an entire cohort
Right.
on that thing. And so they're going to get to decide, do they need to break it into smaller groups to make this happen, or do they need to work all together? So that's the cool thing about this being the first year for that. They're going to have a real big hand in shaping how this
what
works.
that's going to play out.
Yeah.
Well, and then outside of that, it is a 10-month course with 11 days, because in November we both have the closing
graduation.
retreat and graduation. But I've seen and heard people that have gone through this that have made lifelong friends. I've heard people that went through this program and now they're going to be in each other's weddings. So beyond just that, I told someone similar to Case, there's a personal part of this that is, as adults, it's not the easiest thing to make friends all the time. And so it's an
Right.
opportunity to build those connections on the personal side as well.
Absolutely.
So, well, I appreciate you being here with me today. Can you tell everyone where they can find Paint and Fun Ceramics and see all the things that you've got going on?
Absolutely. Paint and Fun Ceramics is located in Uptown Christiansburg, formerly known as New River Valley Mall. And we are right near Dick's Sporting Goods. That's the best way that you can come in through Dick's, or there's an entrance between the backside of Dick's and the mall or the college. that people can come into and find us really easy. They can find us at paintandfunceramics.com. All of our calendar all the way through May. And even, well, our summer camps are on there already too. So through August, we have summer camps. And Heather's really great about getting all of that stuff on our calendar. So I wouldn't be surprised if she has the rest of summer done before the end of this month.
And before we see you next time, is there anything you want, members to be on the lookout for to help keep you accountable? Is there anything you want me to do and me to research or learn so that we know what we're going to talk about next time?
Well, I think next time maybe we want to talk about some corporate team building and how we can tap into that and how art can make a difference for employers and their employees.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Right. Well, thank you, Terri, for being here. Thank you, members, for listening along. We really appreciate it. Please make sure you like, download, subscribe, all of those things so that you see whenever we post something new, whether it be our podcast, whether it be a monthly member highlight, Business 101, Small Business Workshop. There's so much content that we're going to be being added this year, so be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, go out, invest, connect, engage, and prosper.